Good morning and welcome to Unlocking Freedom in Nature and Art. Today, Caroline and I have been challenged by some different tech problems, but we are here and excited to see each and every one of you. So if you have questions, be sure to ask them, right? And share and like. But I'm excited to have Caroline here as I've been wanting to meet her for a while. And welcome, Caroline.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I'm so glad to be here. It's a pleasure meeting you.
So am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Caroline, Caroline. Caroline is the French speaking pronunciation, right? Giroux is my last name. So
How
that
do you
one is a
pronounce
little
your
more
last
challenging.
name?
Giroux or Giroux.
Okay, Giroux. All right. So I know it's like my maiden name was Mitzka and it's Mickh, Czech, and nobody can ever spell it right or pronounce it right. So I totally get it. But Crawford is pretty easy. So anyways, we are so happy to have you here. It is my honor to have you here as a guest.
Thank you.
And Christopher, I believe it was that referred you, he spoke very highly of you.
Oh gosh, he's so kind. And I can say the same about him. He's a very dear friend and collaborator. Yep.
Awesome. So where are you coming from for our guests that are watching today?
Where I'm coming from. So I am a citizen of the world, but I was born and grew up in Canada, in Quebec, actually, and I currently live in California.
Awesome. And so we're going to go take you back to when you were a young girl. I want to hear the story of what you were like as a young girl growing up.
Okay, yes. So I'm the first of three children. So as the oldest in my family, I was expected to be responsible, quiet, and follow the rules. However, it turns out that I have a wild streak and that got expressed in my own kids later on. So, but I'm reconnecting with that and really I'm integrating all the aspects of myself that I have been having dormant since a child. And I was already very creative, very self reflective as a child, and also questioning things that didn't make sense. And I was an Xer, so we were not supposed to talk back at parents. So that caused some problems. But I just nonetheless persisted. I was very perseverant, so very disciplined and applied to my schoolwork. School was my safe space for me. So I grew up in a broken home, and it was very difficult to deal with the family drama, and school and books, friends were my refuge. So, and also nature. And I started discovering the pleasure of skiing at age 8. So that's one of the things that I'm really grateful for my parents to have done for me, is really agreeing to sign me up for a lesson when I said, hey, my cousins are skiing. It looks like fun. Can I do that? So I've been doing that, not as consistently in the past few years as I would have liked to, but my whole childhood and adolescence, I really found solace in the mountains, in the snow. And that was also a very solitary activity in a way. So that kind of fit my introverted nature. But at the same time, like I said, there's a wild streak about me. So I was also a little bit adventurous, and I don't mind the moguls, especially since I taught my boys how to ski from a young age, and they kind of dragged me in those moguls, that I felt more and more comfortable. So I tried various things over the years. I'm a very curious person. I love to learn, and that has led me to travel quite a bit and meet incredible people, learn from them. And I don't know, that's a big answer to your question.
Well, I'm going to come back to the skiing. So,
yes.
But it's like skiing does teach you a lot. And I am not an avid skier. My husband was.
Okay.
But I do know that it's up to you to make it down that hill, right?
Yes.
And it's how you ski, and it is quiet.
Yes.
So you can reflect. It is a great way to enjoy the snow.
Yes, it is. And it's a mindfulness activity. So you have no choice but be in the moment. Like you said, it's up to you if you want to make it downhill and in one piece. So you have to pay attention to every turn. And for me, it really allows me to slow down. It slows down my mind, and it forces me to pay attention. And I always feel good after doing something like that.
Yes. I probably would have gotten into snow skiing more. Did some cross country when I was younger, but when I was older, the problem was is I had a dislocated knee the first time I went. So
Oh no.
those boots were so heavy.
Yes.
And then I'd had surgery after that. And so then it was like I was almost too afraid to really hit the slopes too
Oh,
much. So
yeah.
I did, off and on, but it felt like I was always beginning. But you do
Yeah.
learn so much when you go and you try things. You make yourself,
Yeah.
you sound like, because I was the oldest too, and I was the one that was responsible for everything. You were told not to talk back. I had to watch my brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
I totally get that. And nature
Mhm.
was the one place when I reflect back,
Mhm.
that's where I found that I released a lot. I spent so much time outside in nature.
Yes. What you're saying, Tammy, really resonates. The releasing, I find that nature brings us back to ourselves because we're part of nature. So when we go in nature, we feel better. We feel connected. We feel like we belong. And I like the title of your activity, event, and mission, Unlocking Freedom Through Nature, because that's what it does for me. The skiing, the running, all of these activities, it gives me a sense of freedom. It's not even about running or skiing, really. It
No.
is, I like that, but it's really finding a sense of freedom. And it's a practice. When we do that, we learn so much, not just about the techniques, the movements, but about ourselves, about life.
We do,
So,
because it gives us a chance to sit to reflect when you're walking. Or it's like on Monday, I went with a friend hiking. Yeah, because she actually lives in California, but it's up here this
okay.
week. And it was a blessing because you learn so much more about each other,
Yes.
even when you're just walking and talking.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I have so many fond memories of my kids when they were little and we were hiking and we had those great conversations. And I like to do that too when I go with loved ones and exchange ideas about the meaning of life or just nature and what nature has to teach us.
Well,
Yes.
and yeah, and it's my favorite thing to do with our grandkids or our kids is to go and do an activity outside in nature, or at
Yeah.
least an activity, right? Because when you're doing an activity together, you're
Yes.
spending time together, you're actually talking, you're not on your phones the entire time,
Right.
especially when you have teenage grandchildren,
Yes. Oh my
which
gosh,
I do.
young grandmother.
So my youngest, she's 16 already, the
Oh,
youngest
wow.
granddaughter.
Wow.
But it's like, well, we would, if it's really cold out, we've taken bowling and stuff. But my
Mhm.
favorite is hiking or fishing together or
Yeah.
boating. It's
Right.
just spending the day out there.
Yeah.
And, because like little things will come up that
Mhm.
normally would not come up when you're just sitting,
Yes.
next to each other in a living room or something.
Yes, I do have memories that come back now as you're talking regarding nature and when we're young and why it's so important to be comfortable in nature. I remember when I was in elementary school, my mom wanted me to go to some kind of camp during the summer. And I didn't want to. I thought, oh no, I've heard that people just swim in mud and I don't want to get dirty. And I'm like, and I thought my mom just wanted to get rid of me. Honestly, oh, you'll have fun. I'm like, she doesn't know me. I don't like these things. I just want to be left alone with my books. But then in the high school I was going to, we had these what they called formation camps for 5 days after the school year for 2 years. So I was about 12 and 13. And it was an eye opening experience. It was such a wonderful, transformative outdoors moment where you have a sense of sorority because it was at the time segregated boys and girls. We didn't have this the
It's
spectrum
funny.
of gender. It was very binary, but still I enjoyed being with girls, my friends, and sleeping in a tent and doing these exploration night games. They wake up in the middle of the night, they wake you up and I'll bring your flashlights, we're going to the forest. It's like, oh my gosh, whatever, what is that? and you are connecting with the simplicity of life. I mean, you drink juice that it doesn't even taste like juice. It's water that has color in it, but you're so thirsty at the end of the day that because you've been active, that you enjoy it, you appreciate it. You sing songs while you wash dishes. I mean, I loved it so much that when it was time as a more senior in high school, I decided to be like the animator of it, and I had my own group, and then my sister was in my group too. So, and then I did the Girl Scouts later on, community college, and again another opportunity to connect with nature. So I find that yes, it gets us off screens. We didn't have those at the time.
No,
Of
right.
course, I grew up pre-internet era.
Yes,
But
I did too.
right, and in a way it's a blessing. I'm glad like we didn't have to struggle with that, but it really stayed with me, and I'm so glad that I had those experiences, because now, Tammy, nature is my default. Whenever I have a free time, I'm like, okay, can I eat my lunch outside? Can I go on a walk around the block? Do I have time? Do I have time to sit down and journal outside? And I try to go outside.
It's funny because you crave it
Yeah.
when you don't get it,
Yes. I
So,
feel,
and
yeah, it gives us a sense of balance, like the light. We need that for emotional well-being and general well-being. We need the light. We need to hear the birds. We need to hear silence.
well, it's kind of like some of my fondest memories growing up because my grandparents had ranches and stuff. So, but it's like the sound of the robins.
Yes.
Before I even see them, when I hear them, it's like, oh, the robins are here for the spring. Oh, or I hear the eagle, because you listen to those sounds because you grew up with them.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, it's a blessing when you look back at just those different things. And it's cool that you did the mentoring, which I've done a lot of youth mentoring as well.
Mhm.
But some of the funnest things that we did are the activities, doing them outdoors, like taking kids rafting or, spending time at national parks and different things like that is always fun. So,
Yes.
all right. So we'll go back to your high school time here.
Yes.
So what were your like favorite subjects? What
Uh-huh.
led you to going into what you did?
Medicine. Yes. So I thought I would go in theater at 14. Even though I was a rather kind of reserved, quiet person, I loved um, oral presentations, artistic expression, poetry. I had, done some performances, and I thought that was my calling. I want to go to drama school or study literature. But then I like biology too. So I was very inspired by the conference of a woman who had been a doctor in Africa. And I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to go help people. And so I decided to take a trajectory for life of service. But I always had that side of me that wanted to write and needed to have a voice. So I chose a life of service because I thought I would be selfish to be an artist. I kind of had that weird narrative growing up, and it's not something that my parents explicitly told me about, but I always was fearful that I was selfish because I
I
was compared to some people, like my sister was had such a big heart, and I felt like, oh my gosh, am I selfish? Maybe. So it really shaped me, and I know I'm not selfish. I know I was just trying to assert my boundaries at a developmental stage and where it was normative. But regardless, it led me to where I am today. So in high school, I was very applied to my schoolwork and wanted to get good grades, but I also loved studying, and I was a good test taker. So that kind of became my identity. And plus, I had my parents' kind of approval or attention when I got good grades. I felt like I was not always seen because my siblings were very spirited and exuberant. And my role was like, no, you're the quiet, responsible one, right? So then I felt like I existed when I had good grades. So it became something that fueled me. And then I decided to channel that. I thought, okay, I'm going to study to become a doctor. Before that, I studied physical therapy, which was a great foundation in
right.
applied science. And then I went to med school, and applied to do residency in psychiatry because I wanted to understand human beings. That was my goal. And to me, it was so mysterious how people behaved and thought and expressed emotions, and it felt to me like it was at the convergence of so many things that I liked: psychology, philosophy, biology, the humanities, like literature, etc. So I felt like I was able to address all of those elements that really interested me.
So what's interesting is like what you're saying about how you wanted to please your parents.
Yes. And
You know,
mhm,
and it's amazing, and I see it more. And I know I probably did the exact same thing. You are always trying to please and make everybody happy,
yes.
you know,
Yes.
and get everybody's approval. And you listen to what, even though in your heart you knew you wanted to do this or that, or you're like, well, I'm good at this and I'm good at this and I enjoyed this and this. But then you get these different people that are like,
Hmm.
well, we think you should do this.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I had 18 different things I wanted to do when I
Wow.
graduate, which I've done I've either done them or been asked, invited
Mhm.
to do them. So I'm like you, I like to do a lot of different things,
Yes.
but I'm also a person that tries to do things to help others
Mm.
at the same time. And
Yeah.
as an artist, I was told, you know, it's like, oh no, you can't do that. Artists are starving. You need a real job.
Mm.
So I would just do it part-time. Since the time I was 14, I was paid for my art.
Wow.
But you just did it as more of a fun thing, and nobody
Yes.
took took me serious, you know, and
Hmm.
especially family a lot
Hmm.
of times did not take me, you know,
Serious.
serious. And so of course then you start, what I see with teenagers, and if you're looking back at yourself right now, this is a question for you. What
Hmm.
would you tell yourself
Mm.
when you're going through that process and people are saying, no, you should lean this way, or, you
Hmm.
know, you're being selfish because you want to be an artist, not
Yeah.
saying the fact that you are actually blessing others with your art, you know?
Yeah, I would tell my younger self to trust her intuition, and or follow her dreams. And I did to a certain extent, and I continue to do that. I think I was just believing my ego, maybe also the echo of distorted voices or narratives. No, you can't be an artist. You can do that for a living. Who do you think you are? That's something I've heard too, kind of in a way. But no, everyone's an artist, first of all. Every child believes they are an artist up until they're kind of conditioned in a school system where they need to conform, and then it erodes their creativity, which is very sad, until they're given the opportunity to reconnect with it later. So,
I totally agree with you on that, because I've taught art and I love teaching kids,
mhm,
because you can see, you know, they might be better at this style of art or this style or painting or drawing,
yes,
but they're willing to learn. They're
yeah,
willing to create. And it's us adults that stifle them a lot
yeah,
of times. So,
yes.
anyway, go. I was going to throw this out there real quick. Christopher says, yay, Carolyn, great to see you here. And thank you for sharing your stories and values. So
Well,
many people, especially women, seem to hear that they were selfish when they follow their call. So sad. So, and I want to say hi to everybody else who is watching as well. So, thank
thank you
you.
for watching, everyone. And yes, it's really like a process, right? We inspire each other, and I must say I was lucky that there were strong women in my family who had an artistic side. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, and I grew up next to my grandparents' house, and she was a quilter. She was sewing beautifully, and in fact I have a quilt I want to show.
Oh,
So
awesome.
she used basically like pajamas and scrap fabric from old clothes, and that's how my grandparents grew up and tried to make ends meet, right, raising big families. So I was always inspired by her, and at some point she was showing me how to do some appliques because I wanted to do a project, and she said, these things help us live, and it always stayed with me. She was
It,
there.
It's so true.
Yes, it helps us live. And so even though some people might say you're not going to make money out of it. Yeah, this is the tangible world. You won't pay the bills. You don't get health insurance generally from doing stuff like that. But however, it helps the world. It creates beauty.
It
And
it
right?
does, and it helps release for some like my sister is a therapist and clinician, and her hobby is quilting.
Oh, I love that. This is wonderful. It's so symbolic. I think it represents life because we are quilting the events of our lives that shape us in something cohesive, some story, some narrative. Yeah, that's
I love
beautiful.
that. I never even thought of it that way. So thank you for that. So
Yeah, I think it's a way to transcend like adversity or things that were difficult, losses, and you piece that together and create something beautiful.
what's interesting is you said your grandmother was a strong. My both of my grandmothers were huge influencers for me,
Mm,
especially on my mom's side.
yeah.
I mean, my one grandmother, I learned how to do the gardening and yard work and plant the
Wow.
flowers and do that. And I remember her cooking me breakfast almost every day and going over to their house. They lived across
Wow.
the street and just being there and growing up
Mhm.
on a farm and stuff. It's a different world than people,
Yeah.
you
Right.
learn so much. and
Yeah.
and farmers are some of the hardest workers in the world
Yes, I
because
believe
it's from
that.
early morning till late at night, and but they love what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other grandparents had the ranch and they had sheep and stuff and a tiny little garden compared to my other ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my grandmother, besides having the ranch, they had some ranch hands and stuff, but she was a news reporter. So she would go and write the stories for the different newspapers, and she would take me to interview because at that time they would interview anybody that was getting married, or any special event in the area. And I remember her saying, make sure whenever she said she was so dedicated to making sure everything was exactly what the person said because she didn't want anything to be changed.
Okay. Very.
She had such high
Yeah.
integrity,
Yeah. Very meticulous.
and but it was fun going with her and just
Mhm.
learning and being there with her
Yes.
on
Oh,
those special occasions.
those experiences stay with you. It's such strong modeling. Yeah.
Yeah, she was very strong. You know, she she was the one of because the grandparents then, I mean, this is dating us, right? It was a different era
Yeah.
back
Very.
then. Or
Hmm.
if you think about it, compared to what they had to go through to where we are today. So,
Yes.
but sometimes I think it's good to go back, and I think that's how nature helps us. So,
Mhm.
anyway, I am sorry for interrupting you about you telling
No,
me about your grandmother.
no, it's totally fine. So she taught me so many things too. And she had a hard life. She had difficult childhood, and I know that it shaped her and it shaped the way she parented my dad, which kind of had a ripple effect on me. I mean, I can see all of that now. I can put that into perspective and have compassion for the human beings of the people who came before me, because we carry a little bit of all of them in us, right? So we have to decide what do we do with that and how do we transform that. And for me, art is a way to transform that. It's a way to put things that are hard to explain, articulate into some kind of symbolism that shares a message. And I used poetry as well in my life. So it's I also do a little bit of sewing, not as great as my grandmother, but I did toys for my kids with the sewing machine, or I sew by hand. I like that because that's another mindful activity. It slows down my thinking. I just have to do something repetitive and it really helps me. And I have all
And
kinds of projects going on all the time. So,
I get that. And when what's funny is when you were standing there talking about how you sew now because you're grown, and I was like, you know what? That's probably why I did my sewing. Is I
mhm.
did learn from my grandmother on one side
Ah,
sewing dresses because my degree's in fashion, right? So
oh.
you learn that, and then I was like, okay, then you're talking about my other grandmother. The besides reporting, she had to take all of her own photos, so she
Mhm.
taught me how to use the camera. and
Wow.
how to take photos. And then she would always enter me into these contests.
Nice.
It's called the Potato Festival, where I had to create like 3D things in like a little box of like a little potato farms, or you create things where you find weird looking potatoes in the fields, you know,
Oh,
and you would create things with them. And I actually won quite a bit.
oh, that's wonderful. You are very
But then
creative.
it's like, that's probably why I like enjoy 3D art,
Yes. Yeah.
creating this 3D stuff I do now. You know, you look back, I think everybody needs to take a look back
Yeah.
and realize where they might have got some of their inspiration without even knowing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, it's interesting to look back and put things into context. And yeah, I agree. We might give a different meaning to the events that shaped us and people or in our landscape. Yes.
Well, and what you mentioned is a different perspective. A lot of times we're looking at things with our eyes and our perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but somebody else's perspective might be totally different because of what they're going through.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of like one of my guests that we had on, I can't think of his name right now for some reason, sorry, blank. But he mentioned the fact, because he does sound therapy, is depending on who's you're surrounding yourself with, is going to give you your feedback, yeah, or make you help your decisions, whether they're good or bad.
Oh, yes.
And he said, if you're not in a group hanging out with friends that are positive,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to always be negative. You know, surround yourself, because he was talking about when he was younger, you know, he was with people he never would want to be with again. They were not
Uh-huh.
good for his soul.
Oh,
You know, and
yes.
sometimes you see that and it's like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, you're right, you know, and or you're sitting there wondering why somebody has this decision or this other perspective. Well, look at
Mhm.
who they're surrounding themselves with. Where are they spending their time?
Yes, you make a very important point here, Tammy. I mean, apparently there's a saying, and it goes like this: we are the average of the five people we hang out the most with. So, and there's some truth to that. I'm sure there's some validity. I remember that I tended to attract energy vampires. Since childhood, people would envy, people would just kill my joy. And you know, when you want to share something you're proud of, it's not to brag about yourself. Oh, I won that drawing contest. I was all excited to say that as a 7-year old. And then you have this friend saying, well, don't brag about yourself. And like, and you feel it's wounding. And you wanted to share. I mean, whenever people share their successes, I celebrate with them. I'm always happy for people because, hey, everyone benefits from that. It's a good energy. Why not be happy for each other? And when the
Yes.
And when we share our successes, we have gratitude, which is our inner source of abundance. We're very rich when we're grateful. And this is also a practice that I do and I tell my patients about, and we have that in group. It's a shift that needs to happen. So I eventually realized that maybe I was attracting without wanting. It was all unconscious. Maybe I was a magnet because there was an energy in me and a light that was appealing to those vampires, but it was draining me. It was depleting me. So I started being very careful and I did some cleanup in my life. And I mentioned the experience and before creating the bio about a transformative moment, if you want me to talk about that, because it's relevant to the need to belong and be accepted that we discussed earlier. But I was at a silent retreat. It was my first silent meditation retreat of 48 hours. I had done some very brief activities, but this was my first time over 10 years ago. And I had decided to invest in my self-care because I had some condition that had been an eye-opener for me. And I had decided, hey, I cannot just give. You know, life of service is fine, but like I need to respect my boundaries and also make room for myself. So that retreat was for that. And I realized at that point that I had been fueling on accomplishments and wanted to be in the academia to be accepted, just to belong. Also because I like to learn and be part of a stimulating environment, but there was also the ego part of me that was also creating problems and being not very truthful. And when I was in the meditation, I realized that I was not the conflict that people around me were creating. And I didn't have to be that whole persona with full of accomplishments. It was enough to be me. So I really felt that it was a life-changing moment for me. I just became like free. It was a sense of freedom. Oh my gosh, I don't have to be this. I have to have that title, to have that number of accomplishments. I'm still me, and that's okay. So Eckhart Tolle talk about the being behind the human. And I love that because we forget that we're beings. We think we're human havings. We have to accumulate possessions, etc., as assets, relationships, status. We think we're human doings. We need to do, we need to perform to have value. But it's not true. We have worth, inherent worth.
Very, very true. So, yes. And you know what's, and I hope everybody gets that, and I'll have to shorten that down. And we'll have to put that out there because that was so good. It's interesting. This year, you're the second person who has talked about how people can become like vampires and suck your energy, your good energy out.
Yeah.
And it usually happens a lot to those that are always the givers.
Mm-hmm.
Always. And you remind me of me, how you can just be standing there, all of a sudden people will walk up and tell you their whole story.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, we're empaths. You're probably an empath.
Yes. And so you know, and it's like I'm learning, you know, because I love to learn as well, but I learn all the time how I need to put up my guard a little bit more.
Mhm.
And it, like you said, when we focus on always just doing or having thinking, because it doesn't make anybody else happy, you know, it's like we have to look at our perspectives. Just because we have stuff doesn't mean I've seen so many people, let's rephrase this. I've seen so many people that have a lot of stuff and everybody thinks they're happy, but they're really not. I've seen people that have nothing that are happy.
Yeah.
But then I've seen people that have nothing, but then they don't do anything to help themselves. They just expect everybody else to always give and give and give.
Yeah.
Or they live in their past and never get over their past. They're always the victim.
Right.
But when you step away and realize those are challenges that have shaped us to who we are today,
Yeah.
and we realize we're not the victims, but at the same time, we've learned we have to make sure we learn to stay away from the vampires that suck that energy out of us,
Yeah.
and we'll be a lot happier.
Yes. And thank you for mentioning the relationships, namely the vampires, because I know it can be very demoralizing to think that I've been through this relationship and it was so draining and I felt wounded. And yes, these relationships can be traumatic. However, a way to free ourselves from that victim role is really to see that as a teaching opportunity. All relationships are teachers, especially the really bad ones. Because the good ones, everything's going fine, it's smooth, it's harmonious. So we're not challenged much. But Pema Chodron said that experiences that crack us open allows us to soften our hearts. And that is so beautiful.
Oh, it is.
I find that I became even more aware of certain things, of the human condition and the human potential because of the adversity I've been through. And in the moment, I didn't want to believe that. I hated those moments. Obviously, I didn't want. Who likes to suffer, right?
I don't.
But nobody loves that. It's actually worse to suffer. We have a less tolerance to suffering than like addiction to pleasure. So there's not enough pleasure that will compensate for the suffering, basically. So that's why people commit suicide in general. It's because they want to escape suffering. It's not necessarily because they want to die. They just don't want to suffer. Regardless of what else they have that's positive in their life, the suffering is really the determining factor. So we need to befriend the suffering. We need to realize it has something to teach us.
Right. And we hope we learn that time so we don't have to go through it again.
Exactly, because if we have it repeatedly, it's because there's a message we didn't quite get. And I don't want to say that it's kind of in a punitive way. No, it's like life is a spiral and things will keep happening until we get the full lesson, all the elements of the learning or the teaching.
Yes, I totally agree with you. So Trish said, great quote, Carolyn, we are not the conflict other people create. Christopher said, I am not the conflict that people around me are creating. That's a keeper quote. And Trish said, truth, Tammy. And I agree with Carolyn. So therapeutic to use your hands. It
Yeah.
does help to settle your mind. So
Yes.
thanks everyone for your
Oh,
comments.
thank you. Yes, that's so nice to have a kind of conversation like that and together raising awareness and consciousness.
It
By
is. Well, and
inside.
Trish and Christopher are always out there putting inspirational quotes and stuff
Oh
out.
my gosh, he's amazing. I call him a soul cousin. I haven't known him until a few years ago, and yeah, he feels very special to me. He's very special. Yeah.
That's nice. Oh, I met him because he was on our show before. So
Yes.
I love it. So, and I love everyone we have here watching.
Thank
So I
you.
appreciate that. So, all right. So we've got, so no, what were you, so you did all of your medical, do you have kids?
I
Just
do have
go ahead
three
and,
teenage boys. Yes. And I'm a host parent to a student who's from Central Asia at the moment.
so,
Yes. So I feel like all children are our children and children are the children of humanity. So we have to care for every child, as if it were our own, because we don't live in silos. I find that really strange that people will just say, well, this is my family. I care about my family first. Yeah, sure. However, if you don't care about your neighbor, it could also affect you and your children. So I think it's really important, especially with the youth. I find that the children, the teenagers are vulnerable. They can't vote. They can be exploited easily. We know that everything's happening right now, and I mean we're seeing it. It's been happening for a long time, but so we need to take that seriously. And as a society, we need to protect the youth and give them the tools they need to become self-directed adults.
well, I volunteered with youth over 38 years.
Oh, thank you
So
for
high
doing
school
that.
and junior high.
Oh, wow.
I love working with youth.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I stopped because I was working with spending time with the grandkids, you know, teaching
Mm-hmm.
them to
Well,
and
that's your
mentoring.
youth.
And
You
it's my
are
youth now, five of
working
them,
for the
right?
youth. Yeah.
Uh,
Wow.
But but when you can work with youth and be a mentor, you know, it actually whenever, and I'm the type, and I'm sure you're the type, you always want to give your best and be your best.
Yes.
Because to me, you're being that model,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, that they're looking up to. But
Yes.
I worked so much with youth, so I've seen a lot.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And our youth groups, you know, sometimes we're like 400 kids, and then we go into like schools and different things. And our church still does that, where they help with mental health to help prevent suicides, help
Yeah.
those kids that are going through traumatic things. And
Yeah.
to where our church, I'm supposed to have that psychiatrist on sometime, set up a mental health facility. So if they don't have funds for it, the parents can bring the youth there,
Mm,
or the parents in it, in our church covers it, pays for it.
that's a wonderful initiative.
You know, just to help is setting up kind of like a model program that they started here last fall.
Oh, I love that. And I applaud that. And you know what? It brought back a good memory. I mean, my mom was a school teacher. She's a retired teacher now, but also she was very dedicated to the youth. And whenever I had a day off in school, listen to this, I loved school so much that I asked her if I could go to her class with her to help her. I didn't stay home for my day off. I went to class. I went to work with her. And she was very generous and attentive to her students because they were in an underprivileged area of the city, and sometimes they didn't have breakfast. So she would bring breakfast in her class for the kids. And so that always stayed with me and made me a strong kids' rights advocate. And I work with children. I'm an adult psychiatrist, but I do see some children and adolescents in an Indian telehealth clinic as a consultant. And I'm also an educator. So as part of my role, I teach medical students and residents. So it's also kind of my motherly role. It's part of that, my nurturing approach. And I call them my little quails or ducklings because I feel very protective and I feel like, yeah, we need to do that, whether we have kids or not, right? Everyone has the potential to be motherly, men, women, single or not, regardless of age. We have a collective responsibility towards the youth.
Right. And just make sure your youth are spending the time with the right adults.
Oh, yeah, correct. Yes. We need
Because
to protect.
one of the things that always amazed me was how many, if a kid had a problem or something, how many parents didn't listen to their child.
Yeah. And it's so frequent, and parents are stressed. Parents have their own attachment issues,
Right. They're not perfect.
unresolved. No, they have their own resolved stuff, and they just need to be aware of that and take ownership for that so they can become more intentional parents. It's not about perfect parenting, it's about being intentional. Because when we're intentional, we show up to the kids' life when they need it the most, and we are modeling how we cope with imperfection and how we take ownership. And that's important.
And, just I'd also suggest here, take the time to listen. If a youth, whenever I've worked with youth, when they're like doing something bad, and because we want to help them before they go and do something horrible, right?
Yeah.
Or something they shouldn't do. But like if they're doing something in the classroom and stuff, meet them for lunch. Find out what is really going on. I was substituting, this was years ago, and the teacher probably shouldn't have been there as a teacher because she said, I hate this class in front of the class and how I hate these kids, and you're like going, why are you a teacher? But I ended up, because it was seventh junior high, and ended up, both brothers were acting out. So I pulled them and said, hey, I want to meet you both for lunch. Just for a few minutes, I have a few questions for you guys. I want to know what's going on. And so we sat down and I said, what's going on? Well, come to find out, long story short, is their dad had been murdered the year before and their mom was having brain surgery and they didn't know if she was even going to make it. And the counselors, nobody at the school knew this was going on. But working with our church with youth all the time, we were used to asking the hard questions like this, right?
Yeah.
And so, of course, I informed the counselors and everybody that. And once the kids at least just said that, got it out there,
Right.
they became like the best kids. Because I was watching the class for substituting for like a week or 2 weeks. They were so helpful, It's just they needed to get that out. And I could, it's like I could understand when they just needed somebody to listen.
Understand. That's a key word, right?
Right.
Thank you for doing that. I find that with anyone, not just for kids, but especially teenagers and kids, when they don't have the vocabulary, the emotional vocabulary to express what's going on, they will act out. It's our job as adults to decode that and to put that into context. Hey, kids, adults, youth, they do the best they can. And if they can't process a difficult experience, like the death of a parent or a parent going through surgery, they will act out. So we need to decode that. So, and not judge the behavior, but always putting that into context. And sometimes, as parents, we're not the best to approach our kids, but we need to make sure that they have people that they bond with. Oh, the coach or the school counselor or that teacher. It takes a village, but it's our role as parents to never lose sight of what's going on with our child and like trying to understand them. And like you said, listening. It starts with listening in a non-judgmental way. Fully hearing them. That's what they need. That's and understood.
Yes. Well, and other thing, because I mean, I've dealt with a lot, is don't be afraid to say no to your kid. Know where your child is at all times.
Yeah.
Who they're hanging out with. And then they're not going to get into the gangs. They're not going to get into the trouble if you are there for them.
Yeah.
You have to take that time. And one of the things that working with like 14-year-olds or they ended up pregnant or into drugs and different things at young ages. Every one of those kids told me the thing they wished their parent would have done was
Mm.
said no, or at least said, hey, a curfew, just different
Yeah.
little things.
Yes.
And it's not being mean, asking your kids to do chores or saying no. It's just
Mhm.
responsibility.
Yes, exactly. The kids need a structure because it's safe. It gives them a safe sense of safety. It conveys the message that, hey, the parent cares, right? So that's important to have that structure and those limits. Yes, absolutely.
So Christopher says, I really appreciate you guys and everyone else who engages in building communities of love, understanding, and support.
Yes, well said, Christopher.
So I can't believe how fast the time's going here.
Yes,
We're
yes.
just going to have you back on, Caroline.
I would love to
So
tell
go
you.
ahead and tell us what you do. So if people
Mhm.
want to reach out and find you,
Mhm. Yes, I do a lot of things creatively, and I'm having a lot of fun writing blogs. So I have a blog for the youth, actually. It's
awesome.
called Let's Chat Anymore with Caro. And I also have a blog about spiritual themes and my own journey and insights in my home. So it's a blog I created when I moved into my home, my first home that I'm owning by myself. And I called it the House of Enchantments, and the blog is sweet. And I also have a YouTube channel called Dr. G's Dandelion Monologues, and I talk about mindful living. And I also have a podcast with Christopher, who's been following us during this event. And it's called The Dandelion Reflections. And we've been doing this for a year and a half now. And we're posting every 2 weeks. And we have a Facebook page. So these are the things I do outside of work and outside of official work. You know what I mean? Everything is work.
Right.
What we do in life, keeping our room tidy or backyard nice, it's work. Work on ourselves is work. But I also love to write essays that pertain to my field, clinical work that I do as a psychiatrist, but also meditation, consciousness, creativity. And that's what I do. And I'm an adult psychiatrist, like I said earlier, and I work mostly with survivors of trauma. And I'm also a group therapist, a holistic healer. And what else? Yeah, I try to channel my creativity the best way I can with the quirky brain that I have. And yeah, trying to help make this world a little bit more luminous in my own way.
I love it. Somebody else that does 100 things like me.
Yeah, do you feel dispersed, Tammy? Because I do. So I
I
know I need.
do. And what's interesting because I do my art through art, right?
Oh, this is amazing what
And
you do.
then I do my unlocking freedom, nature, and heart, which I started to help people realize how much nature and art help us being
Mm,
creative. Because
yeah.
I found so many people have weren't even going outside, taking walks or doing anything. So
Mm,
that's why I wanted to share that you can use it for pain therapy and so
yeah.
many different things, for mental health to get
Right.
out there and do this stuff. And
Yeah.
then I have my Northwest Allen image because that's where my fashion was. And I have clients still contact me. So that's why I have the website. But at the same time, I can put healing stuff there to help people, know how to dress and different things just to help guide. And then I have behind the scenes, which is carving trails. But that what I
Mm,
realized, it's all me. I'm the brand. I'm the
mm.
one who is doing these different things. And I actually enjoy all of them.
Oh,
And like you said, that doesn't count all the times we spend out in our gardens or cleaning or other work or doing volunteer stuff. But it's what I enjoy. So
yes. Well, there's a French philosopher. His name is Frédéric Lenoir. And he said something very wise. He said, when you wonder what you're going to do with your life, some people think, oh, you have to do this because this is somehow better than that profession, whatever. No, he said, no, do what puts you in a state of joy. I'm like, yeah, the world needs people who are happy with what they do. There's no hierarchy, even though we created those. Oh, this is a more noble career than this. No, everyone is part of this collective effort. And as long as you're doing it with the right attitude, with the positive energy, this is how it's going to make a difference.
It does. It doesn't matter what, like you said, what you do, whether you're the janitors are just, if not more important than the CEOs of a company. People don't realize that, everybody should be treated the same and realize that everybody's job is important. Now, if all you do is sit on the couch and do nothing but watch TV, then
what matters is to expand where you are now
and take action.
Exactly. And with whatever means you have. I come from a family of, manual workers. Both my grandfathers worked in factories, and my grandmothers were raising families and doing everything that's involved, all these invisible tasks that a lot of women have done.
And still do.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, but they did expand in their own way. And I have so much admiration for what they were and all the gifts they had. And yeah, so yeah, be yourself and be in a state of joy as much as you can.
Yes. Surround yourself with positive people.
Yes.
Watch when you're on Facebook, watch like your podcasts and different things that are inspiring. My goal every day is to inspire at least one person. And if I can inspire 20, so be it,
It is. It is already something. And I love seeing your posts, by the way, all those pictures of nature and flowers make me smile. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. So, and that's my goal, is to help somebody and put a smile on your face in case you can't get outside,
Yeah.
So, and I love it, like when Trish shares her photos or you're welcome to post too. Any positive quotes or inspiration or photos of a place that's beautiful, share them. I love that when we all share those different things together.
Yes.
That's what this community is about, is inspiring each other.
Yes, we want to feed our soul with the beauty and the positive and inspiring stuff.
Yes.
Great.
So, well, time has gone by here really fast. I want to say thanks to each and every one of you that's been watching. Thank you for your questions. Of course, those that are coming on later, ask your questions and Caroline or I will get back to you on here as well.
I love questions.
Caroline, any last words you'd like to say to the group here?
I would say, live your dreams. Live your dreams. So that's it. Live your dreams and you are worth it. Don't ask permission. Live your dreams.
I love it. I think that is like one of the most positive things you can say, because so many people don't live their dreams. They live others' dreams.
Right. I know.
Live your own dream.
Your own dreams. Yes. Thank you. It was such an incredible pleasure and honor to be your guest today, Tammy. Thank you for having me. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you next week. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.